I'll tell you one more behind the scenes. Shakar, I'm sorry you're seeing this.
I'm very curious how history is going to look back on him.
Everything he does is for her sake. He's like, I'm her Sadiq Chadia. And that's so beautiful. It's like, they made it into a, like, actual visual series where you're going through a story with one person. And
so there's like... I have noticed the little kid's gotten older.
Yes. So, like, keep an eye on him. There's some fun stuff happening that's coming up, inshallah.
Wallahi, like, I remember, like, reading the script, being there, talking to, like, the amount of people. So I'll tell you this: if you're working there, it went from a team of 3 to 4, and alhamdulillah, Yaqeen, like, amazing graphics team and all that stuff,
MashaAllah,
to what was it? Almost like 10 people.
Yeah, like a 10 people production.
Like I wasn't even on.
Not even including the actors.
I wasn't on the production team, but they'd be like, I'd be in the office and be like, yo,
oh yeah, Fozi will like
find anyone.
He'll if he knows that like you have maybe a good eye, or he might just want a little perspective, like he'll bring in people just to be like, oh, like, what do you think of this, what do you think of that? Like, so much thought and energy and effort went into the series, like and I feel like you can really feel that sincerity coming off the screen, man. Like and to really like as a testament to it, people watch it in their living rooms as a family. Like, they're not, some people are watching on their iPad or on their phone. There's a lot of people who like get together as a family. It's an event. It's like a nightly event that people have during Ramadan. They've really come to look forward to it, and I really understand why, man. Because first of all, Sheikh Omar's storytelling is beautiful.
Yeah,
it's beautiful, and then the production team really bringing to life behind him and around him the different stories and the different hadith and Quran.
The vision.
Bro, beautiful.
Does he write his own stuff?
Yep.
Like, is he the one?
So right after Ramadan, he starts for the next year.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
It takes a while.
Yeah.
It takes
all the research. He does everything from literally going back to the books, getting his passion. You talk to him. His passion is research. Speaking is not his passion.
Yeah.
His passion is research. He would go make.
He's a proper scholar.
He's a prop, mashallah. May Allah preserve him. Wallahi, the amount of work he's doing on top of all the activism he's doing and all the community work he's doing. He's a bookworm, and he loves that. He loves he told me this. He's like, you give him something. He loves finding the holes and filling those holes.
And to the point of like, oh, what happens when you take someone who can do activism and you back that up with like real like self work and the studying and the knowledge behind it. Mashallah, your impact can be amazing. And I think that like one of the things that makes me really happy that it's Sheikh Omar that's putting this together is because I know he does the work, man. I know he does the work. I know that he's a community guy. He's not someone who's detached from. He has a local. You can go any day to Valley Ranch after Asr and homeboys sitting there reading with Quran, like kicking it. Like you can go.
Don't give out the secrets.
Oh, my fault.
No, I'm just kidding. You see, he's gonna be there, inshallah. So.
Like he's like a guy from the community who participates, and then obviously he's also serving the community. Then he also has all these different engagements and talks and stuff like that all across the country. On top of that, he's constantly writing articles. Like one of the Sheikh Omar's articles are fantastic, and they're very timely, and they're very their perspective is often very very like nuanced and timely. I already said timely, but like timely, like they comes at the right time.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, like has work with organizations, like actually helping them, whether it's getting set up or trying to help them grow, whether it's like his fundraising stuff or actual development stuff, like from an ilmi perspective, like how to set things up and what things to focus on, so on and so forth. And then on top of that, he's putting together this Ramadan series. Like, to put in perspective, he said he started working on it after Ramadan last year. We just finished wrapping
in January.
In January, like not that long ago, and they're still filming. That means all of his. February, yeah.
When did Ramadan start?
March.
3 days ago, brother. What are you talking about?
SubhanAllah, bro.
Yo, what do you mean? It's been too long. Yo, and then on top of that, like they're still cutting some of the episodes. Not all of them are done.
Wow, SubhanAllah.
Yeah, so
it's like around the clock.
They're working around. Like it's taken a year to put this together.
Bro, tell me and Rahim are available.
Inshallah.
Hey, Allahu Akbar.
Fawzi, gotcha, man.
Yeah. We'll make sure you guys get connected, inshallah.
But I think a huge thing. I think, SubhanAllah, like we see all the great things Sheikh Omar is doing.
Yeah.
He has a few interviews where he people ask him like, how are you doing all this? And he attests it to two things, and both of the things are his mother, his dua from his mother, and he's doing it for her. So she passed away, rahimahullah, and everything he does is for her sake. He's like, I'm her Sadiq Chadia, and that's so beautiful because that also puts him in check. It's like if I do something out of my own ego, I'm doing this in the name of my mother and for the sake of Allah. It's like, well, it's so beautiful when you come back to knowledge and stuff. It puts things into perspective and it puts you in balance and checks, inshallah. So like, don't ever. One, if your mom's making dua for you, you're lucky, man.
Oh, 1,000%.
You are so lucky.
1,000%. And this work takes a lot of effort, man. Like the shuyukh that I really have been blessed to be able to see in close quarters, and really have grown a lot of respect for, are the ones who like, bro, it doesn't seem like they get tired. Like the amount of things they do, and like we get tired because we wake up for Fajr, we're still asleep, and then we go to work for a full day. Maybe we do 1 or 2 extracurricular activities and we go home and we knock out. Like, and that's an exhausting day. And it's valid, like it is a lot. But like they might have like some morning engagement, 20,000 texts in between trying to answer questions for people. And then they got to do they might have a full day of classes that they're teaching. So then they're studying for those classes. And then in between, students assault them in the classroom in between, with their regular questions. So that's just their students that they have to put extra effort and time into. And then it's a lot of time community members might, come and ask some questions for them to answer. And then they might have another class after, and then they might have to travel that day. So they'll go Friday evening, they'll go get there, do an evening program, wake up in the morning Saturday, do a morning program or afternoon program, come back Sunday night, teach again, Saturday night, teach again Sunday morning, and just rinse and repeat.
And on top of that, having family obligations.
And being present for their families. And their children and family love them and appreciate them.
Cut them some slack, man. So we got to cut our scholars some slack.
Yeah.
Mashallah.
How did you guys react when actually, before we get into that, is there any more behind the scenes interesting stuff about this Yaqeen series?
It's going to... The Muslim community in America, especially in the West, has not seen anything like this.
Yeah, it's
where the thing is, what Yaqeen is doing, and Sheikh Omar he's been attesting to, within keeping with the bounds of Islam, is trying to push that needle, so that you're not just listening to someone on a desk, where you're actually experiencing, you're going through a whole story, having actors, and this is only the first step. Last year we did it with more B-roll, right? We went through a story, but not through one person. Now it's an actual film. Take Sheikh Omar, it's a film.
There's a whole short film behind it, and on top of that, Sheikh Omar these videos are supposed to be 10-12 minutes. Sheikh Omar is going over because he wants to make sure that he does justice to every single section of whether it's story or hadith or Quran. He wants to make sure that it's very comprehensive. It's like real knowledge. It's not surface level.
I'll tell you one more behind the scenes. Sheikh Omar, I'm sorry you're seeing this. When we record these series and he's doing his part, after we're done with an episode, he asks for feedback from us. We're not scholars. He's like, did you understand what I was saying? And if we say no, he's like, let's run it back. He edits right there. He's like, no, the goal is not for me to sound smart or the goal is to make the people understand, right? To understand that Islam is as simple as we want it to be, right? And understanding it's so perfect and beautiful in its way, where these are just words and Allah is putting them together, right? And that just shows the ihsan he puts in. And he's like, did I say that word wrong? Is that okay? I remember last year when he was talking about Jannah, I was sitting there. He's like, what fruit do you guys eat in Bangladesh? And I was like, I don't know. Do you guys have mangoes? I was like, yeah. I was like, is there anything specific? And he just put it into, he did off the bat. He was talking about Pakistan, India, and if you don't have these type of fruits in Jannah, these are even better, right? You can have these fruits, but know that in Jannah it's going to taste even more of this and this and that. I'm like, subhanAllah, he takes feedback. And wallahi, when I watch these series and when people are watching them, they're looking at them, they're like, mashallah, but the background behind them, the amount of work that goes behind not just Yaqeen, any type of production, mashallah, now, alhamdulillah, Yaqeen has put forth a new genre of Islamic content, right?
It raised
production capability.
It raised the bar, man, across the Muslim world. I still remember when you would get real scratchy audio and really, really horrible MSA style. We're all trying to copy The Office in our little, bro. and to make it that effortless looking, that how do you say, relatable, takes a lot of effort and work, and a lot of like
team. It's the team
running
too.
it back and running it back and running it back. No, mashallah, the team is fantastic. And you know, I'm not someone who knows Sheikh Omar. I have my whatever little stories with him that I've seen him over the years and stuff, and he's affected my life personally, including my like journey with knowledge, alhamdulillah. But it's really apparent from the people like him and people who have worked with him that like mashallah, like you can see the work, even in some of the real like brief interactions. You can see the work and the effort and the kindness that he kind of puts forth, and we appreciate it. Sure. And I feel like wallahu alam, it seems that what he's trying to do is for the sake of Allah, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all, whatever work from all of us, and may Allah allow him to continue it, right? Because at the end of the day, like, no one's perfect, but what is it? Man, there's a saying in Arabic. Basically, like, whatever you do for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lasts. And I pray and hope that his project continues and that it lasts and it becomes a resource for generations.
And I'm very curious how history is going to look back on him. And I believe it'll be very favorably. I mean,
it doesn't matter what history says. Only what Allah thinks and what Allah says.
But also how people view you is
yeah, that's true. No.
Actually shows how Allah may view you. Rahim, you doing all right over there, brother? Yeah. Okay. How did you guys feel? Because alhamdulillah, I mean, you commended the podcast and being able to address that with Sheikh Uthman. But how did you guys feel when that was, knowing everything you know about the hard work that goes into Yaqeen and the sincerity that they attempt to put into it?
You know, okay. I feel like you got a lot to say. I just want to say one thing. It's so funny because I'll be out in the wild and people
I don't
be
even
like,
think I asked the question, but go ahead.
No, you did. You did, and because you inferred something, and I'm gonna answer that. You inferred.
I implied.
You did imply.
Inferred.
Exactly. Oh, look at that.
See, I would have never. I need to start reading more, man. Mean words.
Nah, brother, you're doing great.
I don't read.
And plus, you put them together in a very beautiful way. I think, mashallah.
Yo, stop raising me up right now, bro. Mashallah.
To answer your question about Yaqeen, it's so funny. People who aren't from here, because like one of the things I love about living in Dallas is a lot of knowledge, and the people of knowledge are humanized. They're just regular folk. They're just, you know, Sheikh Abdullah Duro is that massive in real life, and he's funny, and he will joke with you. And, you know, Sheikh Omar, you're looking up at him like this, and you're like, you know, and you're like, wow, his skincare routine must be like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's just regular folks. They're regular people, you know, they got their good and they got their bad. But like when you are out in the world and like, you know, they're like, oh, you live in Dallas, have you met Sheikh Omar? What do you think about this Yaqeen stuff? And I'm like, what are you talking about, Yaqeen stuff? They're like, oh, you know, like, have you heard about what that one guy said? You know, like trying to like get something out of you. Everybody's trying to figure out like what the hell's going on out here. And because they're all watching these like reaction videos, and you know, all these like really odd things that people are saying about Yaqeen, and nobody has like read an article, or just watch the videos, bro. Like you and I think like we have this very strong like criticism culture, which, you know, whatever. I'm happy that, you know, we are being critically, like having critical analysis of things that we watch, but like don't just consume other people's critical analysis. Like I remember one of my friends who I love, and he's very intelligent. But I used to always get frustrated with him because he wouldn't consume primary sources. He would always consume like the critical analysis of what other people were saying about a thing, especially in regards to Islam. And what that does is it gives you like a really false and inflated sense of like understanding of a subject, right? Because you're like, oh, like I know that he went wrong here and here and here, and technically, like, you know, he's a mubtadi' because of X, Y, and Z. And bro, you know every single one of this person's flaws. Do you know what about the good stuff? What if it was 95% good stuff, and you know all the flaws, and you think you understand that subject, or you think you understand that thing or talk? I think that like one of the things that you're talking about with the whole Uthman thing was like, how many misconceptions did people have because they just didn't read the thing that everybody was talking about? Bro, that's one of my favorite features on Twitter these days. Like, I don't know if they removed it. It was like if you would reshare something without reading it. because you read a headline, you assumed what it was about. First of all, these headlines suck.
Click
They are, bro, 1,000%. They're giving you a completely false impression of what's actually being said. Sometimes it's the opposite of the headline.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we're in an attention economy, so people are gonna say and do whatever they need to get views. That's like on a, very negative view of people. Or on a more positive side, a lot of people have genuine grievances with some of the articles or things that people have said from Yaqeen Institute. But bro, just read what they're saying. Like, Allah gave you eyes and a brain. See if there's a problem. See if it's something you even understand. Learn about the subject. Every time you consume like the critical analysis without understanding the primary resource, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're robbing yourself of an opportunity to learn.
So you're saying it's valid to criticize, but it's invalid not to research your own criticisms.
I think that you can personally have whatever criticisms you want. I think though that, and this is on the flip side, because I don't want to criticize the criticizers, but a lot of times they are not doing. I often have problems with the people who criticize because the lens that they're criticizing from seems very destructive, and it doesn't seem that they're adding anything to the culture or the conversation that's like necessarily meaningful. Sometimes they are. Sometimes it's someone who's genuinely knowledgeable and they have genuine concerns. And sometimes it's just they heard someone who heard someone who heard someone and they're repeating it, and now it's become this thing that's unsubstantiated. Or they aren't rooted in community and they don't really understand. They have no concept of like wisdom. And so they say things not understanding the context that thing was written in or said in, and they understand it wrong. And like oftentimes, like for example, like there's a lot of people who might say, oh, there's flaws in the Quran or the hadith or whatever, and they'll bring up two hadith next to each other and be like, these are contradictory. And it's like, bro, you don't know what you're talking about. Genuinely, you don't know what you're talking about. You go to any sheikh and they will clear that up for you. Like the people who know and the people who not know are not the same. And I don't think that it's good for us to assume that we're equal to them. Because we feel like we got one up on them because we know their flaws, or we know a certain flaw in a certain argument that someone made. It's silly. It's genuinely silly, and you're not growing and you're not learning. If you want to go and criticize someone, cool. Go do the work. Go read and go learn and understand what you're talking about. And then if at that point you find a problem, clear. You did the work to get there. Now, after the fact, like, how do you resolve that? What good came from this? Did you repair? Did you figure out a way to, interact with this person? Like, I think that when you get criticized, ego comes into play for sure. It's difficult to hear. And I think that...
especially when you feel like you can't defend yourself. It's thousands of random people. You're like, how do I even...
For sure.
Get these guys all in a room?
And so it's very hard to come to like a peaceful resolution or to get some sort of meaningful result out of it. Like, I often think like, okay... You might have thought that this was a good idea, but what do you think is going to come from it? Like, so, there's for enjoining good and forbidding evil, there's rules to it. You can't just go out and just do that. If you are going to go and stop an evil that's going to have a comparable evil that comes because of you stop this evil, or there's a greater evil, you're not supposed to do anything. Right? But if you know that, that means you have to think ahead, you have to understand your situation, you have to know the context, you kind of have to have a general understanding of what's going to happen next. Obviously, you can't always control things, but you should have some understanding. Meaning that, like, okay, if I'm going to correct this thing that I see as bad, I should know that by correcting it, I'm going to have the effect that I want, which is to make this thing or people or my community better.